Welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast, brought to you by TournamentPokerEdge.com, the only podcast dedicated exclusively to poker tournament strategy. Now here's your host, Clayton Fletcher.
Hello once again, everybody, and welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast. My name is Clayton Fletcher, and I am in beautiful, serene, scenic Denver, Colorado. Happy to be bringing you yet another edition of the world's longest running strategy podcast in the poker world ever. I'm not alone. I'm in a hotel room somewhere in central Denver with not one, but two of my all-time favorite guests. I don't even know which one of you guys to start with. This is like Mount Rushmore here. This is crazy. All right, let's do you first, Alex. He is a wonderful, incredible poker player. Over $3.5 million in lifetime earnings, final tables, EPT, WPT, you name it. He's done it all. He's also written, what is it, four? Is it 4 books?
Yes, sir. 4 books.
Oh my God. And he's here with us. We hung out last night and I asked him to come back on the podcast. I'm so happy to have you back. PokerHeadrush.com. Alex, the Assassinato Fitzgerald, my man.
Oh, man, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, nice hotel room, by the way, right?
Yeah,
this is what they give the headliners at the Denver Improv. More on that in just a minute. First, I want to bring on my other guest. This guy is a voice that we've all been listening to for 25 plus years. He is the voice of Poker Stars. He's also an author. Every single person on this podcast today is an author, okay? One guy wrote 4 strategy books on poker. One guy wrote 1 book about how to use comedy skills in business. And one guy wrote a comic book, Joe Stapleton.
Hello. Hello, my babies. I thought writing 1 book would have been good enough to have written the most books in a group, but no, I'm tied for 3rd.
Tied for 3rd, but it's not a comic book, it's a graphic novel.
Graphic novel, yeah. I say comic book because somehow I think graphic novel sounds even nerdier than comic book.
Yeah, it totally does.
But it is 150 pages long, yes. It's she thick.
Yeah. So we are recording this on Thursday, January 16th. And many of you, while we're actually live recording this, are possibly thinking about coming out to see the comedy show tonight at the Denver Improv. By the time this goes to air, you will have learned one way or the other that show was canceled, some kind of problem at the club. And I hate when this happens. Stapes, talk about what it's like being a comedian, having, getting excited for a big show, possibly flying all the way across the country in hopes of doing that show, and then having it on the day of the performance, hearing from the club that it's not happening.
I mean, the good news is that we are very used to disappointment as comedians.
And poker players. Too.
Yeah, and as poker players. We can go over the similarities once again between those two fields, but yeah, we're just so used to it. Clayton, you've been on a hot streak lately, so I imagine this is like a little bit more disappointing to you than it is to me. Also, it's a headline gig for you. I was going to be here anyway. I was looking forward to it, but it's probably not going to sting as much. But Clayton said there's a problem at the club. Here's the problem. The club.
Yeah, let's just trash them on the podcast and they'll never invite me back anyway. Yeah, but Stapes, you have other dates here in Colorado. We might as well tell my listeners. I won't be joining you for them, but like what else, else are you going to be this weekend?
Before we get to that, I do want to say we're on like a ticking clock right now, me and you, Clayton. Now you're saying you won't, so I have shows in Eagle, Breckenridge, and Aurora for the next 3 nights. But Clayton and I have been offered like a Hail Mary. My buddy has a show in Vail tonight, and he's like, if you and Clayton want to drive out, it's 30 minutes to split between the two of you. And so
30 minutes of stage time. So we're going to possibly drive right as soon as we finish recording to Vail. And you live here in Colorado. How far from Denver is Vail?
Oh, you're going to be driving a while. I think that's 4 hours.
No.
4 hours total.
4 hours one way.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
4 hours.
He told me it was 90 minutes.
All right, we're going to fact check this. Yeah. There's no way we're driving to Vail tonight.
I'm pretty sure it's a hike out there. I recall driving 2 or 3 hours.
Okay, that's where we're at right now. So not one totally accurate, but we're looking at 2 hours.
It's at least 2 hours. Yeah. Somewhere between 2 and 4 hours to get to Vail tonight.
Okay, we must have taken the circular route the other time. Yeah, I have lived in.
Sorry, I was looking up Uber helicopter.
I've lived here very briefly. My bad.
All right, no, but still, it's not close. So, like, would you drive? 4 hours, any length of time, like a long amount of time, would you drive that far to do like 15 minutes of stand-up? That's the question.
Well, the thing is, you're way further along in your career than I am, so I am at the peak of doing stuff like that.
I was going to do an hour tonight, right?
Yeah, right. But you're already here. It's not like, yeah. So, I'm at peak, like, do whatever I can for a spot, especially because here's some of the pros and cons. This is going to be a hot room. We get to spend the time together, hanging out,
which we don't get to do enough as friends, right?
We get to pretend like we're on the road together for one night, one brief relationship.
Should one of us bring a banjo? Feels like somebody should be playing banjo on this.
And then we'll have the story. Yeah. Those are the pros.
Right.
The cons, none of us really needs like the $25 we're going to get paid. And it's bad for the environment to drive the SUV I rented back and forth to Vail. And we could also just have a nice steak dinner here in Denver.
Right. Maybe we should just hang out in Denver.
But we do have to answer before this podcast.
All right. So by the time we finish recording, a decision will be made one way or the other, which will be irrelevant to all the listeners because the time will already have passed. This won't come out until tomorrow morning. Alex, do you think we should have dinner or do you think we should go to Vail?
You absolutely go to Vail. You have no idea what could happen.
Oh, man.
It's Vail. Okay, Vail is different. You guys got to see it, okay? I'm just going to say that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's...
I've done Vail and I've played Vail. It's awesome. It's
there
really...
you go.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We're not going skiing. We're going to do 15 minutes of comedy.
It's still really cute there, though.
Okay.
Like, it's an adorable little... It's just like you're in a little European village.
Right. And it's actually...
By that, I mean no black people anywhere.
Oh, my God. I'm going to have to cut that. People speaking languages you don't understand. I've heard you go skiing in Vail, right? Obviously, but yeah, we're going to do a little bit of comedy tonight. I don't know what to do. Maybe the steak dinner. I don't think Alex is going to recover from that punchline.
I didn't see it coming.
Yeah, well, I mean, you were actually going to come and see the show. Alex is a huge supporter of mine, really good friend. He was planning to come and check out the comedy show tonight. I'm just sorry that it's not happening. Unless you want to go to Vail with us.
Oh, man. That might be a bridge too far. But, yeah, no, I'm sad you guys don't get to play because definitely one of the ways I decompress at the end of the day is just watching comedy specials. And I honestly think what you're putting together is special. And I wanted to see you do your craft. And I'm sad it didn't happen, man. You deserve better.
I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
That actually reminds me of, like, to me, the biggest travesty of all of this show being canceled. Like, on a personal level, I'm going to be fine. But if people show up that don't get word that it's canceled, like last night we were playing poker in Blackhawk. In fact, we're about to talk poker any second now on the show. But a bunch of the dealers said they were coming, and they were like, if I get out of work in time, last thing I want is somebody to drive an hour and a half.
And maybe rush, right?
Yeah, rush out of work.
Got out of work early, going to go, and I can't wait for the show, and then they get there, it's not happening.
Yeah, like that would really upset me. Like I would actually probably find a way to personally make it up to that person if that happened. So I don't want to be taken. I went to a guy's birthday party, his kid's birthday party once, because he came to one of my shows and it was canceled, and it was sold out and he couldn't get in.
You did that?
And he's like, I was like, he came from like Long Beach. He's like, I'm so sorry, man. He goes, I was like, how can I make it up to you? He's like, if you like drop by my birthday party in Redondo Beach on Friday night. It was at a bar in Redondo Beach. And like, I went and I met his wife and like all of his friends. I stayed for like an hour and a half. Yeah.
You're a real one, man.
I didn't forget that happened until this story.
He is. That's amazing. The things that comedians, through no fault of Joe's, was that show canceled. And now he still finds himself like indebted to people that were going to come and see him. It's just, it's so ridiculous. All right, well, let's talk poker. We did get to play a little bit of poker last night. We went to a place called Bally's Blackhawk. They were so nice to us. They allowed us to flyer, and we had like a little meetup game. We got to play with some of the local poker talent. And Alex, you're more familiar with the scene here. Describe for people that maybe haven't played in Colorado what it's like playing like in a casino in Black Hawk.
So I really love playing here, but people just act goofy when they're playing cards. It's like the elevation gets to them or something, or like a couple of beers at 8,000 feet, and then 3 hours in, they just go, you know what, all in. Or like we saw last night, a little bit of yelling, a little bit of getting into it with folks, you know?
This guy was getting bounced from the place. We don't really know the story. It was happening at another table, but they were dragging him out. Yeah, you weren't there for that. Yeah, Joe had stepped away. And then like right when you were gone, like when you came to see us at that other table, this guy was getting like escorted out, and he was recording the security guard who was bouncing him like he was in the wrong, right? This guy was clearly belligerent.
Like he was in the right. He was acting, and he it looked like he clearly needed to be ejected, and they handled business pretty well. But right as that was happening, I looked at Clayton and said, "Welcome to Colorado.
Yeah.
This is how it is." Yeah.
My first time here. Now, poker-wise, I know this is a tournament podcast, but something you don't see in cash games, if the blinds are $1 and $3, many times you won't see somebody straddle on the button for $69. But we saw that several times last night, which is a lot of fun. Kind of changes the game a little bit. Like Stapes had 300 in front of him at one point, just ripped it in, open ripped for like 300 for...
After the raise to 69.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like you open rip because there's already
sevens. I was like, how do I play this hand? I can't just call $69. Like, by the way, it's blind raising. So
Yeah. No, I'm not saying you did anything wrong. I'm just saying like, that's not normal.
Yeah.
Usually, if you're playing 1-3,
that situation very often.
When you're playing 1-3 and you have 300 in front of you, you're typically not all in pre-flop.
You bought in for $300 and you had 5 big blinds, and you did not know that going in.
Well said. Yeah. So it kind of reminded me of your new book, Alex, which is How to Beat Players Who Never Fold. Did I get the title right?
Yes, you got it.
Oh, nice. That's a great topic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so that's what we had last night. You know, I'm just value betting relentlessly. You know, I've got like third pair. I'm getting 3 streets because these guys just weren't folding, you know, until I ran into a series of coolers. And that's, of course, part of variance of the game. But just talk a little bit about how you apply what's in your book if you're in a situation where you might have, say, for example, a drunk guy or just a fun-loving guy who doesn't care and likes to straddle on his button for 69 before he even gets his cards.
Well, the first thing you got to do is get used to that. So you got to expose yourself to more situations like that. So if you feel uncomfortable in a game, the first thing I would tell you is good. You're not going to feel comfortable until you're not going to feel comfortable being uncomfortable until you put yourself in those situations again and again and again. The second thing I'd tell you is keep your wits about you, keep value betting, keep not playing their game, playing your own game. So if you don't like how they're playing, that's fine. Just stick to your own guns, which could be play 2-pair or better. When you make a 2-pair, start playing it hard, but don't get sucked into the multiple barrels holding on with second pair if that's not your game. Do your thing.
Yeah, I like that. That's really good advice. So, you know, for example, Stapes absolutely should, you know, he's first or maybe second to act after this like $69 pre-flop straddle. He's got sevens. We all approve. He's got 5 big blinds. You got sevens. You're all in, right? So what's the worst hand you should do that with?
Oh, great question.
I'd go 5s plus, ace-8 suited plus. I don't know if that's right, but that's what feels right to me. How many people did you have to act behind you?
A lot.
Oh, then 7s is great. Just go with that.
7's the bottom then?
Yeah, 7s is the bottom. If you wanted to gamble with 5s, I'm sure you'd be fine because probably people aren't calling off correctly. But yeah, 7s was... I like it.
Yeah, I think the table was 8-handed at that point.
I forgot to mention the main rationale for it was not having to play post-flop. You forget about that. Like, I can't make any more mistakes in this hand. Yeah. It'll be 1 or 0.
I like being all in because they can no longer bluff me. It makes me happy.
That genuinely is a huge, like, how many times am I going to love the flop with pocket 7s?
Yeah.
Like, so I'd rather just get it in pre.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. So, we got to get into tournament strategy, you know. But before we do, I got to talk about this book that you wrote, Stapes, because it's doing really well. There seems to be like certain amount of buzz around this graphic novel. How did you come up with an idea for the novel? What's it called? Just talk about your book for a second.
Sure. Awesome. Thank you. It's called Trapped, and it is about a TV poker commentator who's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder because he thinks he should be more famous.
What was the inspiration behind?
I think it's David Tuckman. And he's he kind of in the blink of an eye loses what he already has. And gets wrapped up with some people who are like, hey man, like I know you're down on your luck right now, but you know, Hollywood home games are like where all the big money is. You're certainly good enough to play in them. We'll bankroll you. And he doesn't want to do it. Then he loses everything. So now he has to go to these sort of unsavory characters for his buy-ins. You can see where things go from there. He gets into a little bit of trouble, but in the end realizes that, like, rediscovers his love for poker in the process.
So it's got kind of like a feel good.
It's like partially like the like House of Games, like it's a little bit of a con movie, like twists and turns, that sort of thing. And then basically, yeah, it's like an action comedy sort of deal that with a nice message about poker. We call it a love letter to poker.
A love letter to poker. I like that a lot. If somebody wants to pick it up, what's the best way that you want them to do that?
twistedcomics.co.uk. I think it's the only place you can get it right now. So.
Okay, twistedcomics.co.uk.
That's right.
All right,
thanks
got
for
it.
the plug, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, thanks for being on the podcast. We haven't had Stapes on in quite a while. Alex, I had the pleasure of interviewing you maybe like a month ago, which is great. But you know, my listeners go crazy when we have the Assassinato. It's kind of like when he walked in last night and people are like, "Oh, here he comes." He's like a legend around here. And so I'm just glad to have both you guys on. Makes me feel like maybe my cross-country flight wasn't a complete waste of time. And when combined with a 2-hour drive to Vail, I mean, come on, how can you beat that? All right, so let's talk about GTO Wizard. GTO Wizard is, to me, the number one product on the market right now. You use it. You can plug in the hand that you had, what the situation was, whether it was a tournament, a cash game, a PKO, a mystery bounty. They really have all the different variables that you can plug in. Check it out and figure out exactly how bad you are at poker. I mean, that's what GTO Wizard teaches me, or at least how far from theoretically optimal it is. And Alex, I know we talked about this last time. Your general playing style, because of your typical opponents that you're facing in, say, the friendly confines of the Colorado poker rooms, you don't really need to try to approximate GTO strategies, do you?
You don't have to get too deep into it, but what the solver is really good at is suggesting new lines that you might not have thought of initially. There's some times you'll be using the software and it'll say, hey, try this bluff. And I go, really? And then it says, hey, even if he's calling with this hand and that hand and that hand, you should still do this bluff. And I go, wow, that's actually really cool because there's no way in hell he's calling with any of those hands. So I'd say... yeah, use the new tech. There's a lot of times it will give you some openings you haven't seen before, but also, you don't have to go too deep with the GTO when you're six-handed and one guy's just rip-roaring to go. That happens sometimes, too.
We had multiple guys rip-roaring to go last night in our cash game.
Yeah, it's a lot of mountain men up there at Blackhawk. It's a different world.
So when we talked a month ago, I had never been to Colorado at all. And so you were talking about playing poker versus mountain men, and I wasn't really sure what that meant. And as of last night, I know exactly what it means now, and I love the mountain men. Stapes, I wanted to ask you, because your quote-unquote day job is that you are a commentator for Poker Stars. How has the advent of kind of the rise of the solver changed the job of a commentator?
It's really screwed me, Griff. To be honest, it's really screwed me because right when I was like starting to get okay at analysis, where like I wasn't totally embarrassing myself, everyone went out and got like the most powerful analysis tools that ever existed. And like, I'm not going to lie, like I don't find it that interesting to do solver work, to see solver work.
It's not for everyone.
I don't think a general audience wants to hear about it either. No. Right. I think that as what I love my peers and the poker players to think I'm good at doing analysis, but I've realized that they probably don't, and that's not that important. But yeah, the solver era has made things difficult. And I think also if you are well versed in what the solver says to do, then you can watch two solver guys battle and you're like, this is the greatest. This is the best.
Totally.
But if you're not proficient with the solvers say to do, I don't think it's always that entertaining to watch. Now, sometimes it is, but I find that when there's a wild card, when there's a mountain man at the table, it's way more interesting as a casual viewer.
Of course.
When you have people making ham-fisted decisions. So I do still like there to be that unknown quantity at the table, and I'm not gonna lie, like when it's super high rollers and everyone's playing nearly perfect poker, it's tough. It's really tough.
Yeah, because no one's on tilt, no one's going to be on tilt. Like they're all just, it's like watching two computers battle against each other. You know, I agree.
So that does make my job a little bit more difficult, especially in that the true beauty of what they're doing, it's still kind of beyond me. Right. So I can't even really highlight that. Like there was that hand, I forget it was on Poker Go recently, or I think it was Nick Schulman calling something from Triton, and he was like speechless. He was like, it was
the poetry of it.
Someone like turned aces into a bluff or something. You guys probably remember the hand, and he's like, oh my God, I can't even believe what's happening here. And I'm like, are we watching the same clip here? Like
he's bluffing with aces.
Yes, because I'm an idiot, and so I like to keep it a little bit more real. But obviously the solvers are good. They work. They're it's tried and true for now.
Yeah, for sure. One of my favorite things to do these days is to actually go on Twitch. I'm not a big streamer, but I'm on Twitch at Clayton Comic, and I'll play with the solver. And I'll do like the drills or something.
Yeah.
I'll be like, all right, so this is what you're supposed to do when you get 3-bet. So I'll set it up that I've raised and got 3-bet by the button. And then the solver will deal me a hand that should be in my range for either folding or calling or 3-betting and just do pre-flop. And like, you just see like, I think I'm so good at poker. And then I keep finding these leaks and I'm like, well, but that's how you learn. It's like having a coach tell you, unless you have a good reason, this is better as a fold.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the way you want to think about it, if you've ever been sick and you didn't know what the problem was, and then you finally went to a doctor and they said, this is the issue, you want to look at this, and then you felt better 5 days later, that's what the solver can provide for you. But the other thing I really like getting into is the nuts and bolts. Like, hey, they're supposed to be slow playing with this and this and this. Okay. What happens when you get rid of those hands? Ooh, we get to do this. But to go to what Stapes was talking about, what's really compelling to me is, playing like five-handed cash. I mean, a five-way, multi-way pot cash game. And a guy who's just in his 50s and on his 6 Bud Light just looks at the board and goes, this much, boys, and bets 80% pot. I'm not going to lie. When I'm sitting there with like top pair, third kicker, there's a voice in my head going, this is awesome. I still love this. I still love having to think actively at the table and having to think clearly in stressful situations. That just still gets me going for some reason.
And me too. And exploitatively, not just think like, what would the solver do? Because the solver isn't playing against a 58-year-old drunk guy on his 6 Bud Light. The solver is playing against another perfect computer. So like, how should I change whatever the optimal range is for this exact situation, which the solver is never in, because the solver doesn't have to play against amateurs.
Oh, absolutely. And the human element is still there. If you think about what the police do with polygraph tests, so polygraph tests are not admissible in court. So,
thank God.
Yeah. But think about it. Why do the police still use them? It's because when you put pressure on people, they give up things that they shouldn't give up. And there's many times at the table where people feel pressured and you can get a reaction out of them. And I'm just fascinated by that. Actually, there was a hand last night when we were playing 1-3. Someone button straddled. I called out of the big blind and under the gun called as well. The board came Jack 7-3. I led with 8-7. The person called behind me, under the gun called. The turn was an 8. I had 2 pair at that point. I had 8-7 on the Jack 8-7 3 board. I bet, and he immediately raised. Okay, there's a human element right there. He knew what he wanted to do immediately. That's usually not someone cooking up something relatively quickly. So, okay, look, most people don't raise their draws on the turn. They're usually into doing that on the flop. And then you can talk to people. People forget you're allowed to talk to people. So
I even forget that.
Yeah. So I said to the guy, oh, you flopped it, right? And he goes, the question is, what did I flop? Well, that's a lot of breathing and talking if you're bluffing. Most people, when they're bluffing, usually kind of want to disappear. Like if they could, they go, I'm going to go to the bathroom, boys, and figure this out.
You figure out while I'm gone. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So I thought, okay, this looks, I could be making a really dumb fold, but I don't think he's raising a jack here at this point. So I folded, and he was nice enough to show me threes. So you can, now I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to fold 8-7 there on the turn if the person really knows what they're doing and can turn hands into bluffs and whatnot. But what's so fun about a game with people is you can just look at the person and you get to play Maverick if you'd like. You get to live by your decisions if you so choose to.
And you had your read and you stuck with it. And then it's always nice to get that confirmation, of course, because he turned a set, right?
Yeah. Oh, he flopped the set.
Oh, he flopped the set.
Yeah, the board came Jack 7-3, turns an 8. I had 8-7. I just led. Sorry, I explained that one poorly.
No, that's all right. Yeah. So either way, but you were beat is the point.
Yes, sir.
And you felt like, even though you knew you had a pretty strong hand, obviously for the situation, the evidence that you were gathering as an investigator, if you will, with your polygraph test and everything you were doing there, and staring into his soul and figuring out what's going on. Why did he act so quickly? Why is he talking so comfortably? You put those pieces together and made the right decision.
Yeah, that's what I love. I used to just watch TV shows like Mindhunter and think this is the coolest job in the world, looking at serial killers and figuring them out, right? And at the poker table, you get to put money down on, can you read a person or not? Are you just BSing yourself? Or what kind of person are you? Can you look at a person and realize if they're lying or not? And then, 10 years ago, I couldn't fold that hand, and it's really nice to feel like, okay, I can actually play better than I used to play based on my reads of other people.
Yeah. I mean, the solver makes the call.
Right. I don't know if you remember, but we were in that exact same spot, and I called you your raise with my 2-pair, knowing that I was probably beat, but you are a player that's capable of having worse than a flush there.
I remember the hand. You had aces and deuces.
Yeah. And so, like, against his guy, I might have folded the 2-pair, but against you, I had to call. It's almost the exact parallel.
Yeah, because I have a different range than some drunk guy who races very quickly on 4th Street.
Right. The human element is what is so fun to look at.
Yeah, and I think Joe's point, I agree 100%, is like when you are watching like a super high roller bowl or something like that, you've just got, there's almost no human element. These guys have become the robots, basically. There is no human element when you're watching like David Peters against whoever, it's just Dominic or somebody. There's just study, and they're not really trying to level each other that much. If they are, I don't see it.
No, absolutely. Like, to your point, Stapes, just when someone's capable of a lot of bluffs and you have just a decent bluff catcher, it becomes a rather annoying, okay, I guess I call down here. And then if a person doesn't have any visible tells or anything you can work off of, it really, to me, that's not as fun. I would much rather be playing poker for a lot of money with people I can glaringly exploit at some point, as opposed to just going, well, I guess, Clayton's good at this. I guess he gets all my money now. Nothing I can do.
Who has a better seat? That's what it ends up being half the time when you got 3 good players at the table or 4 good. Whoever's in the best seat gets the money. That's just how it goes.
Exactly.
Yeah. And because at that point it's less about the cards and more about them knowing what ranges are and all that robot nerd stuff. And if you want to learn more about that nerdy robot stuff yourself, I have a good deal for you. It's a promo code. It's not a promo code. It's what we call an affiliate link in the biz, a partner code. You can click the link in the description of this podcast. You can try GTO Wizard for 24 hours. All the features, check it out, see if you like it. And when you're ready to buy, you will save 10% just because you click that link, gtowizard.com/p/TPE. Now, Alex Fitzgerald has a poker hand that he wants to run us through. And when it's his turn to act, before you tell us what you did, Alex, we'll chime in with the pros and cons, what we might
kicking around a little bit.
Yeah, we'll kick it around a little bit. Yeah,
sounds good. Let's do it. So you guys are in a $44 tournament. We'll keep it low stakes for this one. It's a 6 max. Button opens. Button's been a little loose. Button makes it 2 big blinds. You have 62 big blinds in the big blind. You have villain on the button covered who has 60 big blinds. You have 8-9 offsuit in the big blind. What would you like to do here?
Okay, so we have an open from the button with 60 big blinds, which is the effective stack because we have them barely covered. The small blind folds.
Yes.
And we're in the big blind with 9-8 offsuit. Stapes, you go first.
Crying call.
Yeah, I think it's pretty pure call here.
Yeah, we go with the call. So
Most calls for me are unless I have the nuts in any given situation, it is a crying call.
All my calls are crying.
Yeah, unless I have quads, I'm just like, oh, show me the river.
I'm going to get that on a t-shirt.
That's
okay.
funny. All my calls are crying. That is a t-shirt for sure.
So we now have effective stack 60 big blinds. We're in the big blind with 8-9 offsuit. The board comes 5-3-6, and it's on us in the big blind. First act, check our bet.
Okay, I think we were just always going to check to the razor here. We've got a gut shot. We've got 2 overcards. But yeah, I mean, we're either going to check call and check raise. That would be my plan.
Optimistic check.
Optimistic check. First the crying call, then the optimistic hopeful
We got a
check.
draw now.
Right, yeah, we got some
We can get a
chances.
free card. Let's go.
Yeah, let's get that free card.
Yeah, we're not crying yet. So we check, and Villain on button bets 3.83 big blinds into, yeah, you can tell it's an online hand, 3.83 big blinds into 5.1 on the 5-3-6 board where we have 8-9 offsuit. They have 55 big blinds back. What would we like to do?
Pretty chunky sizing there on 4th Street, or on the flop, I should say. So let me ask you this. What stage of the tournament? Is this kind of earlier in the tournament? Or we're nowhere near the money or anything, right?
Yeah, early, you're dog fighting. You can rebuy right now if you'd like.
So we're still in the re-entry phase of the tournament. All right.
I think you're supposed to raise here sometimes, right? Aren't you supposed to mix in some raises?
I mean, are you supposed to? I guess, will the solver...
So I would be inclined to... First of all, whose money am I playing with? My own money?
Yeah, whose money do we have? That's a great question.
This is my own money.
Okay, all right.
I actually will play worse with my own money. I'm less beholden to myself.
Right.
Like, I feel like I have to answer to people.
No, we've actually talked about this on the podcast before. I think I talked about this with Andrew Brokus not that long ago. Like, I have tried, having like investors buy shares of me or whatever. I've never had like a backer per se, but I've had people say, oh, hey, Clayton, can I get like 5% of your main event? Whatever. And they give me some amount of money for that. I don't feel as comfortable like triple barreling, for example. If I'm like, if this doesn't work out, I got to now explain to this guy how I lost his $800 or whatever.
Yeah. So, but I think that for me personally, in this situation, in a $44 tournament, I don't feel like this. I feel like this bet sizing is very sus for some reason. Yeah. They're not really supposed to have any of this board. I think we can raise.
Yeah.
I might just try to raise here, and because you don't really want to call a bet this big, I don't think, because all you have is a gut shot. You don't have I guess you could bluff on a later street with it because 9 high is not going to be very good at showdown, but I might just try to win it there with a raise.
5-6 tray on the flop, right?
Yep.
Okay.
5-6-3.
So this flop, obviously, Joe brings up a really good point. It doesn't hit a lot of opening ranges, even on the button. So, Alex, you're the coach and everything. How would you construct the range that you would expect your opponent to have when he bets so big on the flop?
Well, the way I would construct that range, I agree with Joe in that most people don't flop a set and go, well, then I started blasting. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's usually a coochie-coo, come on.
Yeah.
The water's
lose
fine.
him. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They get real cute typically. So I find on these low card boards, a lot of the times I'm sick of getting check raised. I bet if I bet bigger, I won't get check raised, which makes me really want to check raise.
Now, this is great. Yeah, go ahead.
I just thought of something else, though. This is also a play like a lot of people. I know you said it was a loose open, but you know how skilled this player is. Like, this is how a lot of people play like 10s and jacks in this situation.
They just don't want to see an overcard to their overpair.
Damn good point. This player was loose, but not very good. So, yeah, that definitely could be 10s and jacks. But, the thing is, there's a lot more. There's like 16 combinations of just ace-9 suited that bricked versus like 6 combos at 10s. Sure. So you're far more likely to just get random overcards. But you're right, it could be 10s and jacks as well.
Right. That's interesting. You take the player's bet and you say, what is this bet telling me? Is he saying, I have Jackson, I don't want to see the next card? Or is he saying, I am so sick of getting check raised, I'm going to start sizing up and betting bigger so that they won't check raise me as often, which they shouldn't if you're betting, 80% pot or whatever this one is, right? So that's a good point.
Right, yeah. And obviously that's only something you could do with the low stakes players. But yeah, you will see that tendency come up a lot of the time if you're playing like 50s or 30s or something like that.
And tangent alert, but Stapes, we talk a lot about how there are so many similarities between comedy and poker. And like for me, if I'm on stage and there's something I've just said and the audience makes some type of noise, whether it's a laugh or a groan or applause or whatever other kind of sounds humans can make, I do with that noise what Alex is doing with this bet. What does it mean? I try to interpret that. There's different kinds of laughs, different kinds of groans even, right? So, I mean, how much of that do you do when you're performing?
I do so much of it that sometimes I've finally gotten to the point now where I can still say the words while I'm thinking about that simultaneously. Yeah. But sometimes early on, it can just stop you dead in your tracks because you're thinking about it so much.
Especially when you get a really unexpected, like, why are they... Wait, what did I just say? Did I not say it right? Is my fly down? Like sometimes the audience is making these weird sounds and you're like, I've done this joke 100 times. I've never heard this noise before.
I mean, one time literally I was on stage and I couldn't understand what was going on. Like everyone was like looking at me, but they were not reacting to the things that I was saying. And I was like, what? I got off stage. Like, what the hell? And they're like, there was a cockroach in front of the stage. It's just like going back and forth, going crazy. So everyone's just like looking at it and not paying attention to you.
So that's amazing. He performs in the nicest club with the best cockroaches. Yeah,
Lotus Lounge.
Yeah, nice. Shout out to the Lotus Lounge. Yeah, so we're trying to figure out what those laughs means, what those groans means, and why everyone's looking at the cockroach. You're looking at this bet like, does this signify somebody that's sick of getting check raised? Right, that's a key. Have you been doing a lot of check raising, or do you remember?
I do a lot of check raising out of the big blinds.
Sure
I'll get to why I do that in just a second as we peel through this hand. Did you? So we do check raise here, by the way.
Oh, we are? You said we should do that sometimes. Woo. Points for Stapes.
Yeah, so we check raise. Obviously, a call is fine as well, but we go to 10.65 big blinds and our opponent calls.
Okay. Hey, let me ask you this. Is folding okay?
Folding is not okay.
Okay, why
in my
not?
opinion, because if you are folding with the 2 overs in the gut shot, along with some bluff opportunities for a reverse float, I think you're just not defending enough out of your big blind.
Nice.
You can get away with it in a vacuum, but you're going to get run over as you move up in stakes. So that's not a habit you want to get into.
What is the flop sizing that you would fold this hand to?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. When people bet pot here, that a lot of the times is, I've got my queens and you're not going to hit your damn 4. In which case I go, okay, dude, it's yours. You're going to have this one. But yeah, that tends to happen more live, and it tends to be a guy folding his arms and puts the chips out there really pissed off and has been talking about how bad he's been running. And then usually then you get to see the kings.
Yeah, he'll show it to you.
Yeah, exactly. So
protect my hand.
Yeah, exactly. And that doesn't happen too often, but it does happen on occasion.
And obviously less often online.
I can't look through the phone cord online. Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah.
No, I mean that they would even bet the pot on the pot.
Oh, yeah, on the pot. Yeah. No, that doesn't happen too much. I mean, on Ignition, anything's possible, but yeah.
But you just gave me a good idea. Like, we could develop a technology where you can actually see your opponents through the phone cord online. That would be very cool.
Yeah, I'd be into that.
So we check raise, we get called, and the turn?
Yeah, the turn is the king of diamonds. So the board now is 5 of clubs, 3 of hearts, 6 of diamonds, king of diamonds. We have 8 of hearts, 9 of diamonds. There's 26.4 big blinds in the middle, and we are about 50 big blinds effective. What is our move?
Okay, so... the first question, well, not maybe not the first, but a question I like to ask is, who is that a better card for? That king that shows up on the turn, is that a better card for the big blind caller or the button raiser pre-flop? And I just feel like my view is that king is a better card for his range than mine. So for that reason, I wouldn't have a lot of bets on the turn, even though I did check raise on the flop. I think this might be a spot where I would just check and see if he wants to bet again. That doesn't mean I'm not going to raise him again. Right? I can do that if I want to, because it's like, well, this is obviously a better card for the pre-flop raiser's range. And say I did have 3 6s. That's one of the hands I would play this way, right? So maybe I'll check to him and say maybe he's got ace king and this will get him to bet again. Is he going to call another check raise? I don't know. What do you think of this? Am I overthinking it?
I think that's a fantastic point, but what I think of all the time is, okay, is that a good card for him or me? And then I ask myself, does he even know that? And
that's a good question too.
And a lot of the plays I do are based on, no one's likely done as many private lessons as I have. That's what I do every morning for the last 15 years. And I just ask myself, what would a lot of my students do here? And what a lot of people do when they're playing like $50 tournaments or $30 tournaments is they raise way too much on the button. They bet too big when they really don't want to get blasted off their hands. And then that king comes out there and they should know, oh, that's a good card for me because I have a lot of big cards when I raise on the button, but he would have 3-bet a lot of the better kings. But they don't really do that because a lot of people just start panicking when they have like a 6-8 suited there, or they have an ace-5 or something like that. They go, oh no, now there's an overcard.
I missed.
What? Yeah, yeah, I missed. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. So I went ahead and bet here.
Nice.
And so we bet 11.2 big blinds.
Into the 25, was it?
26.4. Okay. And villain calls.
Okay.
So the river comes out, and now the final board is 5 of clubs, 3 of hearts, 6 of diamonds, king of diamonds, 2 of diamonds. We have 8 of hearts, 9 of diamonds. There's 48.8 big blinds in the middle. Villain has 37. And
everything got there.
Yeah, the world got there. Yeah. So how are we feeling right now? What do we want to do?
Yeah, I mean, we've been playing this whole hand like we already have it. You know, we check raise, we bet, pretty big again on the turn. It can raise red flags in certain players' minds when they see a player who's representing that he's already there continue being aggressive when the scare card comes. So I don't know if a bluff is going to work a lot in this spot. And also, what is our opponent calling with on the turn? He's not supposed to have a lot of 4s in his range, right, Joe?
No, I don't think they're supposed to have a lot of 4s, but I'm going to take the other side of this one. I'm going to say that I don't know that a more bluff spot exists.
So you really want to bluff this?
Like, I think that we're check raising like a lot of draws, and that ours didn't get there, but like plenty did. And I think we're more likely to, you said everything got there in the river. We're more likely to have the everything than the person. So now we can now if they even do have queens, we can bluff them off queens. Like, we're not even worried about jacks and 10s anymore because those hands shouldn't be. So I think, and we don't want to show down 9 high. So
we obviously hate to show down 9 high.
It feels like this is just such an obvious rip it in spot for. Maybe that's just like the slightly above average poker player play and not the elite poker player play.
Well, let's talk about the draws on the flop. A lot of them did not get there. Like, there's no flush draw on the flop. That's a backdoor draw that came
right.
So the only thing, like the draws that got there on the flop are the 4X, right? It's just 6-5 tray and now a deuce on the river. So would we play, like, what 4s do we have that are playing this way?
I think we have tons of 4s.
We do? Okay.
Yeah, I think we have plenty of 4s because we're calling super wide in the big blind. Like,
yeah.
I think we even have 4 or 5 sometimes, like 4 or 5 up through any suited 4. We're gonna, it doesn't even have to be ace 4 suited. Like,
could be any 4
suited.
Yeah.
So
Alex, is that true? Do you think we have a lot of 4s?
I don't think we have a ton of them, but I don't think it's going to matter because most players at like 40s, 50s, 30s can't even think that far. Okay. What they're going to be doing here a lot of the time, I can tell you the reason I run this play, so I shove. But the reason I run this play is because when you check raise, bet flop, bet turn in low stakes, people will do the hell with you, and then on the river go, oh God, what have I just done?
This is serious now.
Yeah. This got real.
Yeah, so the way that low stakes players look at bets is like this. If you bet 0 to 50% pot, you might as well bet 0 because they just feel really stupid folding to that.
Players who never fold.
Yes. If you bet 50 to 100% pot, okay, that's a real bet, but still I'm going to feel really dumb folding to that. Overbets and all-ins make them actually think about the game, and they're not going to think about it that clearly. Like most people don't think about financial decisions clearly at all. What is going to happen oftentimes is they're going to go, well, I still have a pair and there's only one overcard on the turn. And then when the flush draw comes in on the river, which we're blocking, we could have some backdoor diamonds that got there. And the straight comes in, they're just going to focus on the fact they don't have it. And they're not going to have it about 70% of the time, depending on how you want to range them. And this jam, I think, needs to work like 45% of the time, or actually maybe even a little less than that. So what's going to happen is all of his pocket eights, or his like 6-8 suited, or his 5-7 suited, or his ace-5, is just going to be very, very irritated at this point, and then go, okay, go ahead.
They'll call sometimes, though, right?
Oh, yeah, I get called, which is why you got to be willing to rebuy.
Yeah. Get that ready. Yeah.
I might be willing to get better at poker now that I know that I can irritate people.
Yeah, dude. They get very irritated.
Now, that actually adds a whole new incentive to being good at poker. I didn't think I cared, but if I can irritate people, that...
Alex, that's your next book. How to irritate people while playing poker.
Yeah, how to thrash bums for fun and profit. How to irritate normal folks in their everyday lives. Yeah.
How to make a guy who's normally very pleasant to be around become a raging lunatic.
No, I've had people like jump up and scream at me at tables before, like, I know you're not playing S, I know you don't. And it's like, all right, call me. You know what I mean? You can send me out of here. And going to your earlier topic, when it's my own money, I care a lot less too, because I know, I'm like, yeah, I think this will work, you know? And then, you're not right every time, but damn, it's fun when you're right.
Oh,
it's
bluffing is the joy of poker.
Yeah, it's really great. Wrap the table, nice fold. It was a good fold. I had that one.
Good lay down.
I will bring up something I think that your people will be able to relate to too. Like, this hand for me plays totally differently if I'm online or I'm live. And I'm not just talking about live reads. I'm talking about if I rip it in here and I get snapped off by 2 jacks or whatever, I close my laptop, I turn my TV on, and I'm home in my house.
That's it.
And I'm like doing the next thing. If I haul my butt in 2 hours of traffic to Commerce Casino and I'm playing in a 1K and I'm sitting there and I have 9 high in this spot, I'm not always going to rip it in, because like I want to keep playing poker, and I won't just, and so, I'm sure that's perfectly exploitable also, but like it plays way different for me if I'm online versus live in this thing.
We were talking about this last night, actually. Stapes is a very honest and vulnerable person. And, I went through a period where I kind of lost like 4 coolers in a row. Or one was a bad beat. The other 3 were coolers, whatever. I went from a big stack in a 1-3 cash game to a almost no stack. Stapes was saying, see, this is the part of the game that makes me crazy. This is when I start to get too emotional and stuff like that. Kind of just like observing what was going on in the game. And like, to me, like that is, like you said earlier, like, well, now that I know I can irritate people, I might want to learn to actually get better at the game. But like, to me, this is where those robots that play the super high roller bowl, they like literally never go on tilt. They don't get emotional. They could literally lose 12 hands in a row, 50 hands. There's almost no number of disappointing outcomes that can happen to these people that would put them to where they're not going to just play their very best robotic self on the very next hand. So I know we're going to get to the end of this hand in a second, Alex, but just while we're here, as a coach, how do you teach that?
So the first thing you have to focus on is the vast majority of your opponents do not beat the rake. So if you are playing in a fashion that they approve of, you have successfully gained the approval of losers. You're going to have to do bluffs that make them sick. You're going to have to do calls that make them nauseous, and you're going to have to do folds that would make them cry. If you're not doing any of those 3 moves, it's very likely you have one of 3 leaks. If you call too much, you're a station. If you fold too much, you're a nit. If you bluff too much, you're a maniac. But you need to find the pinpoint moment where the field is not doing a certain fold, call, or raise or bet that you're now able to do. And a good way to think about these situations is everybody, to your point, Joe, everybody, when they've played, let's say you play a poker tournament and you're just playing like a $300 one in Las Vegas. And okay, so you drove there. That's 45 minutes. You're on the bubble now. It's been 4 hours. nobody wants to tell their spouse when they got home, yeah, I spent 5 hours today doing absolutely nothing. In fact, I lost $300 today. And they go, wow, you really didn't put it together there. You want to justify your poker habit. So what everybody's thinking on the bubble typically is, okay, I'll make some money now and then I'll make my move. No, you can't do that. You're looking at everybody else. Remember, they don't beat the rake. So if you have 27 big blinds, and that's the big stack in that local tournament, and you can move it around, you better be prepared to move it around, because everybody else is thinking, okay, I'm going to cash before I seriously do something. And then, yeah, if you see nobody else moving their chips around and they're not doing that well in poker and you don't want to imitate their play style, then you better be moving some chips around when other people are not prepared to do so.
This guy, I could talk to him about poker all day, every day. Every time I talk to you, Alex Fitzgerald, I think to myself, I want to go play some cards right now. You get me so fired up with these things that you say, because you kind of strike, and this is true of all your books too, like the way you write and your passion for the game. It kind of makes me remember why I love it so much. These things you're talking about are why I love the game so much. It's not because I like to study ranges. It's because I like this, psychology. Like, he's going to have to go home and tell his wife that he lost $300.
Yeah.
That's, at the end of the day, that's what's going on. People are doing human things in the casino.
Absolutely. And that's what I love about the game too. I still love, I know this is the tournament podcast, but I still love cash games, just staring at someone for a ton of money and just, can I crush this person? Can I outthink this person? Can I put this on my highlight reel in my head that I think about constantly? That is what I like to think of. And practicing a play at home, thinking about it, strategizing it, visualizing it, then executing it, and watching the disappointed face, watching the look behind their eyes when they go, I don't want to be a poker player anymore after a play you did. I shouldn't admit how much I enjoy that.
Yeah, but that is just, a sign of your dominance. And you've got to the point where you're actually able to, in some way, just change something. Yeah. There's power in that.
Well, it's purely meritocratic. If you have the buy-in, you're allowed to do anything you want at that table, and nobody cares who your mommy and daddy is. Nobody cares where you went to school. Nobody cares how smart you sound. It's, can you execute at that moment? And the smartest guy in that room might have a 6th grade education and a couple missing teeth. You just better be prepared to see that.
What did Mike Tyson say? Everybody has a game plan until they get punched in the mouth.
I just want to go on record as saying that also that maybe she might have to go home and tell her husband or wife or non-binary partner that she or he or they or them lost $300. Just want to be inclusive.
That's very good. Yeah. And thank you for your political correctness.
Applause now.
Yeah. Add the applause in later. It's just it was maybe one woman in the whole room last night.
Yeah, there was not a lot of women at the club last night. But no, actually, that's a really good point. Yeah. I should have said that.
No, come on. Like, whatever. You're just talking about every interaction you've ever had at a poker table with a dude. And usually if you are playing against a woman, it's pleasant, so you don't think about them that way either.
That is so true. Like, tripping up someone's ego, that is so something you do versus males in poker. Yeah. I can't get women to trip up on their ego like you can get a dude to trip up on their ego.
Well, the women who have lasted this long in this game, they have seen it all, they've done it all, and they're really good. Generally speaking, the women I play against are typically much better than the men, because like they have to be because they suffer so much at the hands of just all these pigs around them all the time.
Be worth it for them, right?
To make it worthwhile.
But I do want to speak to Alex's point a little bit, and that's part of the reason I also struggle to get better at poker, is that I don't get any thrill at all out of owning somebody. I don't like that feeling of power you just described. Like, I don't like it. I don't seek it. It's why I don't really do many competitive things at all. Right. I don't have that competitive spirit in me.
I wonder if it's a sports background, because that's something that we have in common. Yeah,
sure. I mean, that's why there's so many sports people that love poker and end up going to poker either in retirement or when they get injured. Because it's a great way to get that competitive tournament poker edge, that competitive edge.
That competitive
professional
broadcast.
So that's one reason why I like I actually struggle with emotion in the game.
Right.
Because my lows are pretty low, but my highs aren't that high.
They don't go that high.
Yeah. So
isn't
that's,
that
you know, so I have to be getting something else out of it, which is what social. Hey,
Yeah.
we're having fun.
And we do.
Yeah.
Whenever I played with Stapes, including last night, he makes it more like a party. It's like really, really fun to be at the table with Joe Stapleton. His goals in being there is less about ruining someone's life and more about just, you know, kind of giving people a good time. Now, I kind of have a little bit of both of you within me, because like when I'm doing comedy, I try to figure out what people want and then do everything in my power to give it to them. And when I'm playing poker, I try to figure out what people want and do everything in my power to disappoint them.
No, and it's good to know what people want. And yeah, being mentally well adjusted is not a bad thing, Joe. And
You should work on that.
honestly, I like tables like yours. When I see people are limping and talking and laughing, I go, this is my table. But it's a skill set as well, being able to instigate that. I can't do that as well. Sometimes when I try to get I was playing cash in Las Vegas and the table was really quiet and I thought, well, this isn't good for me. So a guy put a really big bet out there and I said, oh, that's a man-sized bet. The guy stared at me, grabbed a rack, took his chips and left. So clearly I'm doing something very wrong here.
Well, you just kind of have an intimidating presence. I think I wouldn't read too much into it.
Yeah, my girlfriend calls that resting face, but I appreciate that. Oh, I'm sorry, shouldn't have sworn.
That's all right. RBF, we'll get the RBF out. That's okay. See, the most important question to answer, I think that's probably on everyone's mind, is are we going to Vail? No.
I answered for us.
Oh, okay. We're going? I think you said yes.
No, I said no.
Oh, okay. All right.
It seemed a little tight after the
That's
podcast, rushing out there 2 hours, maybe more.
That's all right. But Alex's answer did surprise me when he snapped, said, you have to go to
I
Vail.
thought he was like, no, dude, I want to hang out tonight. Let's go to dinner. I was like, you have to go.
All right. So tell us the outcome of the hand.
I shoved, he folded, and I went on my merry way.
Fantastic. All right. So the bluff gets through. I wonder what he had. We'll never know. But
we can assume that he was very irritated, though.
Yes. How irritated did he seem through the computer?
Yeah, maximum irritation, equity. I got it all on that hand. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's fantastic. Joseph, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Who has a bigger chip on his shoulder? Alex, when he's ruining someone's life irreparably forever and ever, or the lead character in Trapped?
Oh, see, Alex doesn't have a chip on his shoulder. He's just a sadist.
Yeah.
Like, hey, he's a very happy fella. His attitude is great. He just wants to hurt people. Yeah. Whereas my guy definitely does have a chip on his shoulder and really only hurts himself.
Okay, so there's the difference. It's all about pain. It's just who is going to receive that pain.
That's right.
I'm going to get that soundbite at the beginning of my mixtape. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's a pretty quotable soundbite.
He's just a sadist.
He doesn't have a chip on his shoulder. He's just a sadist. And all my calls are crying. And that's a keeper for sure.
To Alex's credit, though, he came in into like a 1-3 game last night and played the way the table was playing.
No,
like,
he did, yeah.
And at least understood, like, for social reasons, like, hey, I don't have to be Assassinato right now.
Right.
And I always appreciate when pros do that, when they, like, read the room a little bit and are like, hey, let's have some fun with these people.
No, he took off his sunglasses, put his hoodie off his head. I'm just kidding. Alex never does that stuff. Yeah. But yeah, he kind of adapted to the atmosphere. He knew it was a meetup game and comedy promotion kind of thing, right?
Absolutely. And you gotta have some humility too, because anybody can rock you at any time in poker too. So you don't want to be acting like you're the best, even at a 1-3 table, because it's going to be pretty funny when somebody rocks you and takes everything if you were acting better than everybody earlier.
Well, to that point, actually, the three of us, I don't mind telling everyone, we played 1-3 for several hours last night. I had the best result. I lost $52. None of us won. Like with the three pros at the table with the mountain men. Yeah. And we got our butts kicked.
Yep, negative 100 over here. Sorry, you had some years.
I lost the full 400. Although I'm not really comfortable being called a pro, but I can't, like, that would be like stolen valor if I were. But as someone who's been around poker a lot, at the minimum,
right? Let's just say you should be a favorite in a typical Colorado 1-3 game.
Yes, I should. Yeah. And look, whatever, it was fun. I had a good time, but I also knew that I was done when I lost that buy-in.
Yeah,
because I know what I'm like. And now I'm going to be chasing that loss.
And you don't want to be upset. You don't want to sit there and play when you're going to be in a bad mood.
Correct.
We're trying to promote a comedy show that eventually ended up not happening. But you still have other shows. So tell us one more time, where are you Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
Sure. Friday, I'm in Eagle, Colorado. Saturday, I'm in Breckenridge, Colorado. Sunday, I'm in Aurora, Colorado. Nice. And I'm in LA February 1st. And I'm doing Tahoe for the first time.
Hey!
I'm doing Harvey's in Tahoe,
nice.
February, I think it's 7, 8, 9. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I wish you so much success
Thank
with
you.
all of your comedy. You know, I've been there pretty early on in your career. We met.
Yes, you know what? I cannot stress that enough. Every time we hang out, Clayton gave me my first ever stage time in a real comedy club in New York City. What a generous thing to do, and plenty of stage time after that. Yeah. So, you know, he's a big part of my comedy journey. So thanks for that, man.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And that's not why I brought it up, but it's just I've seen I've seen how far you've come, Joe. I mean, you know, in the beginning I was like, oh, he's clearly got talent. He clearly
I thought you said not talent.
Yeah, he's clearly got a lot of talent, but you know, it was raw talent. He was still learning, like, kind of how to be on stage and how to, like, you know, connect with an audience and all that stuff. All these things that he does so well now, and yet you've maintained your humility as you've gotten better and better at this art form. I never see you walk in like, oh, I should be the top headliner here or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've ever told you this, but back when you were doing those podcasts back in the day, Poker Road, I was living in South Korea, and I would listen to your podcasts on the subway over there. Okay, it's a very quiet place on the subway over there, and you specifically would make me laugh so hard I would scare people on the subway. People would just stare at me like, why are you laughing so hard? And it was involuntary. I couldn't stop it at all. So yeah, it's great that you're getting some stage time and getting to develop it. That's awesome.
Yeah. That's really he's doing better and better. You know, he's got last summer they were on tour. They went and they did a bunch of shows, a bunch of different places. You filmed it. You said you were going to make a special. What happened with that?
The special ended up being just okay. I'm not going to release it because the trip was a disaster. The guy that we hired to be our videographer decided on day 3 that he was going to make the movie about himself.
Oh, that's always good.
63 years old, and then on day 7 he started doing stand-up.
Oh, that's always fun.
And so now he's like competing with us, and so we decided we were going to lean into it and tell him, guess what, buddy, you want to be a stand-up? Now you're going to open for us at every single stop. And we thought, oh, we could make this into something and make him do 5 minutes in Vegas in the finale. And I was like, in order this to be good, he either has to be terrible or good.
Yeah, he can't just be like 50-50.
Yeah,
no, that's
like
no good.
if he completely eats up there, then amazing. Or if he somehow styles it out, that's also a great story. So I went around the audience and told them to give him a standing ovation no matter what.
A forced. I love that.
I go, no matter how he does, give him a standing ovation. But what happened is they screwed up and they gave it to him when he took the stage instead of when he left. So even that didn't work out. Like even like the one thing didn't work out. So anyway, yeah, that was an absolute disaster. But I did want to tell people just a quick one more plug about PokerStars stuff. About
please.
The big game on tour. We just rebooted the big game last year. The episodes were, I was worried about them not living up. I thought they were great.
They were great.
Big Game on Tour Season 2 is going to be out this spring in a couple of months, I think, right after EPT Monte Carlo. And if I can plug my own podcast,
Please.
The Poker in the Ears podcast, obviously is coming back in the next week.
Recently nominated for Best Podcast at the GPI Awards again.
I didn't read the email.
You guys are nominated every single year.
We're not supposed to say who we voted for, but all I'm saying is that if I were allowed to vote, I would probably look for Tournament Poker Edge on the page. So,
well, thank you. I'm just happy that we got nominated finally. We've never been.
Oh, you're in there.
Yeah, we've never been nominated before.
Dude.
Tournament Poker Edge is nominated for Best Podcast, and there's a 0.0% chance we're going to win, but I'm still just happy that someone heard of me.
Yeah, no, I'm surprised you hadn't been nominated before. That's really cool.
We never did before.
It's really tough. Like I have conflicted views about the Global Poker Awards. I'm so grateful that someone does them, so I'm never going to complain. I will give constructive criticism here and there. My problem is that, like, two things. One, it's really impossible for someone to have listened to every podcast on that list. No. So what are you going to do? You're going to vote for the ones that you like. Is it necessarily the best one? No, it might not be.
Somebody you heard of.
It's just the ones. Exactly. You know, Matt Savage is the first to admit that he wins a lot of stuff. People see his name, they check a box, they move on to the next thing. So
also, nobody ever says anything bad about Matt Savage for 50 years in poker. Like,
if you do, he'll block you. But but so, like, you know, and look, and he is a mover and shaker in the industry, and he is worthy of deference. But eventually, he was even like, I don't know why they keep giving me these awards. I didn't even do anything last year. One time he told me so. So that's one issue I have with it. The other is that whoever let's just say it's best podcast, right? Whoever is the best podcast is probably not going to change from year to year.
Right.
It's probably going to stay the best podcast unless somehow a new one comes out. But it's not like Chip Race is actually best podcast one year, and then Tournament Poker Edge is the best podcast.
Whose turn is it?
Right. Yeah. And I actually like that.
Yeah.
The non-competitive, non-wanting to crush the competition guy in me is like, these awards about spreading the word about poker and giving us legitimacy. So I think it's actually good if we take turns with these things, but that's also not really in the spirit of giving awards. So for those reasons, I kind of struggle with it. It's not a perfect system, but they're always trying to make it better. And I always say they're the stupidest thing in the world. Unless you win.
I was like, I don't care about the awards. I haven't looked at it. You know, people email me and say, hey, I saw you weren't even nominated. And I was like, I don't care. That's not important to me. And that's the first time I'm nominated. I'm like, what if I win? Of course I won't. But
let's take a guy like David Tuckman, for example, right? Like, he's never won the Global Poker Awards. Is he not as deserving? Has he not done his own thing?
I think Tuck is one of the best in the world.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Ali hadn't won until last year. And how ridiculous is that? So,
of course.
So, you know, especially for that particular category, I think it's really good to recognize people who are great at their job and that maybe they're not the most popular, but they're still really, really good at it. So I tend to try to spread the love. So I'm very happy that you're in there this year in the finalists. So
thank you. I will crush you.
Yeah, great.
You're going down, buddy.
And I'm like, oh,
you and James Hardigan are going down, okay? All right, Alex, Poker Head Rush. What happens if I sign up at pokerheadrush.com?
If you sign up for pokerheadrush.com, first, thank you for having me on. If you sign up at pokerheadrush.com, you get 3 free training products just for signing up. One will teach you how to play Ace King when it misses the flop. Another will tell you how to triple barrel bluff. And I pulled out an old training package from the vault about 3-betting that you can check out as well. You get signed up for my daily strategic newsletter, and you can unsubscribe to that at any time and keep the 3 free products if you would like.
Wow, so there's no cost associated with that?
No, it's totally free. Yeah, just go to pokerheadrush.com and sign up.
That's fantastic. I mean, look, this is one of my favorite episodes I've ever done. I hope the listeners enjoy hearing it as much as I've enjoyed making it. I mean, I've got like my favorite poker coach / author and, you know, my comedy buddy from another mother. He's a brother from another mother here, Joe Stapleton. So, you know, it's just been really fun hanging out with you guys. And thank you both for being on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me.
This was a blast. Thanks.
So for everyone here at Tournament Poker Edge, with special thanks to my guests, Joe Stapleton and Alex Fitzgerald, I'm Clayton Fletcher. Thank you so much for listening.
I wanna hold them like they do in Texas, please. Fold them, let them hit me, raise it, baby, stay with me. Lock in intuition, play the cards with babes to start. And after she's been hooked, I'll play the one that's on her heart. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I'll get her heart, show her what I got. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I'll get her heart, show her what I got. Can't read mine, no she can't read a mile. Poker face, she's got to love nobody. Can't read mine, no she can't read a mile. Poker face. go with me. I love it. Russian roulette is not the same without a gun. And baby, when it's love, it's not rough, it isn't fun. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I'll get her hard, show her what I got. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I'll get her hard, show her what I got. Can't read mine, no, she can't read my poker face. She's got to love nobody. Can't read mine, no, she can't read my poker face. She's got to love nobody. Poker face, poker face. Poker face, poker face. Can't read mine, no, she can't read my poker face. She's got to love nobody. Can't read mine,